Hello, everybody, and welcome to this virtual candlelight vigil. We have some very, very special guests this evening that you've already heard and seen, perhaps Miguel and Kelly, and you're going to meet Wally soon. But we're so grateful for those of you who have joined us. Um, we've been hosting these virtual candlelight vigils now since really, I think, the first month of the pandemic in 2020. So this is 6 straight years, hundreds now of vigils that we've hosted at Reimagine to open up space to be with the hard parts of life, grief, loss, death, the collective pain that we're experiencing, but doing it in a way where our hearts stay open, where our community holds us together in that space, and together we can process life with love. And that's ultimately what we're about at Reimagine. We are a nonprofit organization focused on helping diverse communities face loss, adversity, and mortality to create a more compassionate world. And part of that is, reimagining is about seeing things differently, whether it's an event, a work of art. And I think art is an important piece of that too at Reimagine. Creativity, ways in that open up dialogue about things we can't usually talk about in our culture, but pulling ourselves in there through the written word, through music, through things that sometimes words alone can't get at. And so that's the kind of space we want to create here together this evening, and so grateful that you're joining us. My name is Brad Wolf, and I am the executive director of Reimagine, and it's my privilege to open up this space this evening before turning it over to our wonderful guests. So, what we're about, right, is in our culture we're seeing so much loss, so much injustice, so much pain, loneliness, suffering. We see that we're living in a very challenging time. At the same moment, we feel there's a relationship between loss and love, injustice and equality, pain and growth, loneliness and community, suffering and service. And if we can start connecting our pain to our well-being, to a better world, and seeing those things not as disparate, but as really part of life that we need to first accept, or we don't have to accept it, but it is healthy, we believe, to open our hearts and our minds towards everything that life brings and be able to hold that, both sides of it. And in so doing, we can actually move closer to the things on the right. And that's what we're hoping this space this evening provides for all of us, is a small, sweet step toward more love, more equality, more growth, more community, and more service. Now I'd love to turn it over to my colleague, Andy, who's going to share a little bit about what kind of space this is. Andy is the producer of the event this evening. And Andy, thank you so much for putting together this wonderful vigil for all of us.
You're welcome. Hello, everyone. This is a collective space to grieve. Here we cultivate compassion for others and for ourselves. Most of us have arrived here with some kind of pain in our hearts, and our hope is that this space is full of empathy, warmth, and understanding. It's a space for bravery. It takes courage to show up for others, especially folks we don't know. And it takes courage to lament and to grieve in public. With all that's going on in the US and around the world, we need more welcoming and inclusive spaces where it's completely normal to share our emotional and spiritual state of mind. Finally, this space is not perfect. We might fumble, we might falter, we might offend, but we ask for your grace. What kind of space this isn't? It's not about blaming. It's not about imposing belief systems on others. It's not about providing solutions. It's not about fixing things. Another thing I want to emphasize is that although this is not a political space, it is a space to cultivate justice. And what is justice? I like this definition from Dr. Cornel West. Justice is what love looks like in public. So it's more than a feeling. Justice is a call to action for safety and wholeness.
Thank you so much, Andy. And thanks to everyone for letting us share what kind of space this is and is not. We trust that if you continue on with us, you are in the right place, and we believe that you are. So thank you so much for allowing us our humility in sharing, the imperfect space that we're co-creating together this evening. And again, grateful that you've joined us. So what are we going to do this evening? All right. So Vigil is about 90 minutes, and we're going to begin with a candle lighting ceremony. So this would be the perfect chance, if you don't have a candle handy yet, to go grab your candle. And if you have a match or something, that would be fabulous. If not, we can light the spark somewhere else in our hearts. No pressure. Everything here is invitational. So if there's something that you don't have handy or you can't bring yourself to do, that's okay. And as part of that, I want to invite everyone to turn on their cameras if you feel inclined. It is really nice to be able to see one another's faces to the extent possible. But if you just want to recline in your own, wherever you are in the world, and have the screen off for various reasons, that is quite all right with us. Now, after lighting the candles, there will be a conversation with our special guests, Kelly and Miguel Cervantes. Thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to hear from you both. After that, Wally Klatch will lead our honor ceremony. That will be your moment to enter names of loved ones or things you're grieving in the chat. Then we bookend the vigil with a candle extinguishing. And finally, we have some announcements and we'll say goodnight. I wonder if we can just get that chat going right now, because that is the way we're going to be communicating this evening. Yes, it's for the sacred honor ceremony later on, but if you want to share in the chat, maybe where you're dialing in from or calling in from, zooming in from, and then maybe an emotion that you're feeling this evening. There's a lot happening right now in the world since our last vigil, and that's on a global level. And then there's whatever's happening in our personal lives. So if you want to just share the emotions, and they don't have to be negative emotions. Also, they could be, run the gamut. Whatever you're bringing with you today, feel free to share. And if you're interested in sharing why, that's great too. But I hear you feelings about the state of our country and the war and the scared of our future as Americans, and we're grieving really all of that here this evening. We're with all of that. So the personal and the collective. With that in mind, it's time to grab our candles for the candle lighting ceremony. I'm going to take a beat, and let's all take a brief moment here, if you have a candle handy, to light that candle. And now I'm going to invite my two colleagues, Dara and Nicole, to join me. We're going to read this blessing 3 times, and we invite you, wherever you are in the world, to read along aloud with us. Even though we can't hear your voices, we can certainly feel your presence collectively when we do this in community. All right, so by lighting our candles, we mourn division, terrorism, murder, war, trauma, hatred, and all that is disconnected from love. We honor our personal dead, the dead across the world, and all of us still here together.
By lighting our candles, we mourn division, terrorism, murder, war, trauma, hatred, and all that is disconnected from love. We honor our personal dead, the dead across the world, and all of us still here together.
By lighting our candles, we mourn division, terrorism, murder, war, trauma, hatred, and all that is disconnected from love. We honor our personal dead, the dead across the world, and all of us still here together.
Now I'm turning off the screen share for a moment, and we can switch to gallery mode if you're able to do so, where we can see some of the faces of the people that are with us this evening. And if you wouldn't mind, if you have a candle lit, this is a nice moment for us to hold our candles up to the screen to one another, to see that collective light that we're bringing forward into the world. Let's take 30 seconds simply to find a square of someone we do not know, a virtual stranger, and let's think of them as not a stranger, someone for whom we hold in our hearts some positive intention. As we're seeing in the chat, there is a lot of pain, personal and collective, right now. If we're able to send some loving kindness and well wish to somebody we do not know, on just a personal level, that we believe that can make a small impact, especially if we do it collectively. So we'll take 30 seconds, find someone, and offer that care in your heart. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for holding some space for one another. I do believe that, if it's not even a belief, it's a fact. If everyone was taking a pause right now and doing what we just did, the world would be a totally peaceful place. And so thank you for participating in that brief moment of a different way of being in the world, especially as our lives are so busy. So with that in mind, we can put our candles down, keep them lit for the remainder of the time together. And now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Kelly Cervantes. Kelly is an award-winning writer, speaker, and advocate, best known for her blog Inchstones and her best-selling book Normal Broken. Her new memoir is The Luckiest. She sits on the boards of Cure Epilepsy and the Undiagnosed Diseases Network Foundation and hosts Cure Epilepsy's podcast, Seizing Life. She lives in Maplewood, New Jersey with her husband, Miguel Cervantes, whose music we heard at the beginning, we're going to hear later, and the rest of your family. So thank you so much, Kelly, for being here this evening. And I want to turn it over to my colleague, Andy, who's you met a few minutes ago, who's going to be hosting this capstone conversation that really grounds and anchors the honor ceremony we're going to have later this evening. Before we begin, I wonder, Kelly, if you might share with us, we just lit a candle. If there's something in your heart that you want to share about what later on, we're all going to have a chance to share what we're mourning and here. But I wonder, just to kick it off, since we're turning to you first, if you would like to share anything on your heart this evening.
I think heavy on my heart this evening, and looking through the chat, I think heavy on many others. But I am having a really hard time not thinking about all the young girls who died at the hands of a bomb in Iran, and having lost a daughter myself. The journey that so many families are just beginning on, and being so well aware of what that grief is going to look like for them, and how hard the future is going to be, let alone the fact that their home is so unstable at this time, and to have to grieve and go through all of that with instability and insecurity has been weighing extraordinarily heavy on me these last few days.
Thank you, Kelly. It's really good to be here with you.
It's so good to be here with you, Andy.
I loved your book. You're a very brave writer. And I want to talk a bit about the daughter that you just mentioned, Adelaide, Ladybug.
Yeah.
Can you share one of your most beautiful memories of Adelaide?
I think one of my favorite memories, so most of her life was in Chicago. We live in New Jersey now, but the majority of her life was in Chicago. And there are few things more beautiful than a summer in Chicago. And it was just an average summer night. My brother had been in town visiting. We decided to go out to dinner at a restaurant near the lake. And we had a great dinner. My brother goes off in a cab to the airport, and we decide that we're just going to enjoy this beautiful summer evening. My daughter was non-mobile and non-verbal, but of course she had other ways of communicating with us. But we had been going through a particularly rough stretch with her. I'm going to say she was probably 2.5 or so at the time. And we're walking along the beach of Lake Michigan, and my son finds a football that has been left behind. He's, if Adelaide was 2.5, he was probably 5.5, 5.5 or 6. And Miguel and Jackson are throwing the football back and forth to each other, and the sun is setting behind the water. We're in Chicago, but it is. It's just beautiful. The sun is setting over the buildings, and my husband and son are throwing this football around and having a great time. And I'm just sitting with Adelaide, and she's in her stroller, and I'm just sitting next to her, and the light is like shining through the trees directly on her. She looked so beautiful and cute. And then I just I wanted to squish her. And so I started tickling her, and she started laughing. And because of a particular treatment she had been going through, it had been months since I had seen her laugh, and she was just laughing and happy. And it was just one of those moments that I wish I could live in for the rest of my life, because it was just perfect. It was perfect.
Thank you. Your last visit with us at Reimagine was back in December. Yeah. We invited a group of wonderful guests to say a few words about what they grieved in 2025 and what they're hoping for in 2026. You spoke eloquently and very frankly about grieving your body after your cancer diagnosis and your mastectomy. And you shared that, thank God, you're cancer-free, and I'm wishing your body continued good health and resilience. And your initial reaction to that diagnosis was that it was an inconvenience. And I have to say, that's something that I don't hear quite often from people diagnosed with cancer, people who survived cancer. Can you tell us more about that?
I'm going to blame Adelaide for that one. I looked at it as a wild inconvenience. I have to admit that at no point during my cancer journey, my diagnosis, and I never felt like my life was in danger. Even from I read the report. It wasn't even a doctor who told me. I read the report. It came through my chart. I did all of this crazy research on my own that you're never supposed to do. But from that research, I was like, oh, this is treatable. I'm going to be okay. And then we went into the doctor, and she was like, this is treatable. You're going to be okay. And so even when the treatment went awry and they were like, oh, that lump of cancer that we took out with the lumpectomy, it was actually 3 times bigger, and you have another kind of cancer that's spread everywhere in your breast, and now we have to take your boobs. And even then I was like, it always felt treatable. And maybe I was disillusioned a bit, but also, earlier I blame Adelaide because I feel like I have such a bizarre perspective on my life or life in general, and I know what life-threatening illness and disease looks like. I know what untreatable illness and disease looks like. I know a doctor's face when they don't know what to tell you, or they don't have an answer, or they don't have a treatment. That was never the look on any doctor's face through my journey. And so in the beginning, yes, it felt like an inconvenience because once again, my life was being hijacked. My life was hijacked when Adelaide was first diagnosed, which coincided with Miguel booking Hamilton in the musical Hamilton on Broadway and in Chicago, and I had to leave my career to take care of Adelaide. And so I felt like my life was hijacked then, and then it felt hijacked again after she died because my whole life had been a caregiver to her for 4 years. And then the cancer, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm being hijacked again. I have all of these plans and I can't do anything because I'm going to have surgery and recover and surgery and recover. And so, yeah, my initial response was an inconvenience. The grief hit much later. It was a very delayed response to the grief and to the emotional aspect.
Adelaide made you feel at home at the hospital.
She did. Yeah, I missed going to the hospital after she died. We'd spent so much time there. I knew the nurses and the technicians, and we never wanted to be there when we were there, but those were like my coworkers. Those are my colleagues. And I adored them. And I also, not for nothing, enjoyed being in the hospital because I wasn't her sole caregiver when we were in the hospital. I had a whole team who was helping me take care of her. And I also got a break a little bit, you know. I didn't have to freak out over every alarm. I knew someone else was paying attention too. And so when I got my diagnosis, and I'm once again going a different hospital because now we live in New Jersey, but I'm going into the hospital, and there was something at home about it. Like, hospitals as a child, they were terrifying to me. As a young adult, they were terrifying to me, but now I walk in and I see the security guards, and they're all the same. They all have some sort of coffee or sandwich shop in the lobby, and they all have the same, you know, setup, and security guards and greeters and helpers and information desk, and there's
the same smell of iodine.
They all smell the same, and they all have the same horrible wallpaper in the waiting rooms. Hospitals are home.
I'd love you to read a short excerpt for us from your book, The Luckiest. This is about your PhD in Adelaide.
Yes.
And maybe before you begin, if you could set this up just a little bit for us. You mentioned Lori, so maybe you can tell us about Lori.
Yes, so I do. I mentioned Lori. Lori was my high school best friend's mother. And my high school best friend is still one of my closest friends in the world. Her mother ended up passing away the exact same week that Adelaide was diagnosed with epilepsy, which was the same week that Miguel booked Hamilton. It was a doozy of a week. And I was close with her mother. And before she died, while we were going through all of these tests with Adelaide, and we knew that something wasn't quite right, and the panic is starting to set in, although we had no idea to the extent of how not right it would end up being, we were exchanging emails. And she was probably one of my first guides as an advocate and as a caregiver. In the last year and a half, I had come such a long way as Adelaide's advocate. Or do you want me to start at the top?
No, that's good.
That good? Okay.
Yep.
In the last year and a half, I had come such a long way as Adelaide's advocate. I thought about how proud Lori would be of me, remembering an email she sent me just before she died. Do not assume that someone else knows more than you. Just because it is a doctor or a nurse who says they need to do something or need to do something in a certain way, if you know it isn't right for Addie, you need to have the fight. She will need you to represent her best interests now, and there is no one else to do so. Remember, you know her better than anyone. At the time, I couldn't imagine going toe-to-toe with a doctor. I didn't have a medical degree and understood very little about Adelaide's conditions. The doctors were the experts, and I would do what they said, but it was sweet of her to think that I was smart enough to question them. Still, her words stayed with me. Have the fight. In those early days, I was constantly questioning myself, not the doctors. I had stumbled along, blindly following their recommendations, until it became clear that Adelaide would not be one of the lucky children who responded to the frontline treatments. Only then, as Miguel and I watched the doctors become less confident, and as we realized there was no specific medical protocol for drug-resistant epilepsy, did Lori's words take on new meaning. It started small. I had insisted that my immobile and lethargic daughter could undergo an MRI without sedation. Schedule an appointment without sedation and one with. And if we don't need the second one, you can cancel it, I'd insisted. We didn't need the second appointment. Losers. I know it wasn't a contest, but still being right felt so good. I studied Adelaide's test results, compared them with the prior ones, and then asked questions. I allowed myself to find comfort in hospital life. Like Alice stepping through a looking glass, what was once foreign was now commonplace. I became conversational, if not fluent, in the medical vernacular. I learned what accommodations we could request, where to get the best cup of coffee, and which bathroom offered the most privacy. I knew what time to expect the residents when rounds would be for each doctor on service, and which nurses would send me home with the best syringes. I couldn't have labeled the different lobes of the brain, and there weren't any fancy letters after my name. But my knowledge increased, and so did my confidence. I began to joke that I had a PhD in Adelaide. Being Adelaide's advocate ignited something within me.
Thank you, Kelly. I wish everyone had that level of confidence going into a hospital. I don't think your PhD in Adelaide was a joke at all. You totally earned that PhD. And I think you could defend that in front of a committee of doctors, their families, who have children with complex and serious illness. So bravo to you. I want to talk now about growth. And at the start of your role as a patient advocate for Adelaide, you wrote that you resented it, and that makes total sense. You had to leave a very successful career in hospitality and events. When was that shift from resentment to acceptance or even embracing?
Yeah, it was real bumpy at first. And I wrote about that in the book, and that was really important for me. It was a really important section because I wanted to make sure. I felt so guilty that I didn't want to be Adelaide's stay-at-home mother / caregiver / pharmacist / therapist. The guilt that I felt that wasn't like naturally what I wanted to do. I think that I know that I'm not alone in sort of like, I wanted my career. I wanted independence. I love my family, but this was not where I saw my life going. And, it wasn't a gradual thing because you know what? It was a grieving thing. I was grieving my former life. I was grieving my independence. I was, and grief in many situations can be boiled down to a resistance to change. I was resisting this change that was being inflicted upon my life. And in order to accept it, the first thing that Miguel and I had to do was to reevaluate and recommunicate and reestablish our roles as co-parents and in our marriage. And that also did not go smoothly. I am a bit of a fiery person. And so thank God Miguel is far more calm than I am in that regard. But it was fights. It was disagreements. It was arguments as something that we had really done equally was now almost entirely my responsibility because he was at the theater, or he was doing press things, or he needed to protect his voice, or he was injured. The beginning of the show was so stressful for Miguel and time consuming, and meanwhile all of this stuff is going on with Adelaide, and I was overwhelmed, and I was not a doctor, and I didn't know what I was doing, and so I was trial by fire learning how to thread an NG tube up my daughter's nose so that she could take her medicines and consume liquids. And I got my worst grade in human phys. This was not what I'm supposed to be doing. I want to say that I wish I could say that there was some flashpoint where I was like, okay, I accept this now, but with so many things in life, that's not how it was. It was a gradual thing. It took about a year. Mm-hmm. I think it took a solid year for me to accept that this was my life now. And what I actually think that it was is that I needed that year to learn how to do my new job, to become comfortable in it and confident in it. And then once I was comfortable and confident in it, I could own it. And then I started to be empowered by it, and I found fulfillment in it. And then because I now wasn't so terrified of taking care of my daughter, I could add other things back in, like volunteering for Cure Epilepsy, an organization that is near and dear to our family's hearts. And so I was able to eventually, after about a year, find ways to do things that were for me and not just for Adelaide or for Miguel or for Jackson. But this was not a light switch moment. It was a very gradual trudge through the mud, just like any other kind of grief is.
I want to add to that the growth part with this quote from your book that I'm going to read now. I could feel the value that she brought to my life every day. Being Adelaide's mother had enlarged my heart to epic proportions. I felt more deeply, loved more passionately, lived more fully because she was my daughter. I saw the effect she had on her brother as he empathetically interacted with other children with disabilities at her birthday party or on play dates, and on Miguel as he used his Hamilton platform to raise awareness and money for epilepsy research. Adelaide made us all better people. I was so moved by that. I want to talk a little bit about inchstones versus milestones. Brad referenced earlier this phrase that we often use at Reimagine, small sweet steps. That is an inchstone.
Yep.
In terms of a child's development, what would be the difference between an inchstone and a milestone?
Yeah, so I did not come up with this. I don't claim ownership of it. I found it within the disability community. When you have a child, there's so much focus when you go to the pediatrician with a young child. They're like, these are the milestones that your child is supposed to be meeting. Are they meeting them? And if not, you have to, PT, OT, early intervention, whatever. As a parent, it is so hard to look at this list and then recognize that your child isn't living up to standards, to expectations, to typical. And within the disability community, instead of focusing on these milestones, which your child may or may not ever reach, you focus on the inchstones. You focus on the small steps on the way to meeting that milestone. So for Adelaide, that could have looked like, the milestone would have been her walking, but an inchstone was her being in her walker and being able to pick up and put her foot down by herself when instructed. And it was, nothing, it didn't resemble anything like walking. But to me, celebrating inchstones, it was everything. I celebrated that the same way that I did in a video of my son taking his first steps. And when we allow ourselves to celebrate those inchstones in our children, it takes some of the weight off. It recalibrates what your expectations are and allows you to celebrate the person that your child is instead of the person that our society expects them to be.
And I loved also how Jackson was a teacher for you in recognizing who Adelaide was and what was possible for her.
I was always so jealous of him because there were 3 years between them. And so he just looked at her, he accepted her fully as who she was. He never looked at her and was like, oh, she should be playing with toys. Oh, she should be talking. Oh, there was no, she should be doing this or that. He just saw her and loved her and played with her in the body that she was in the way, and accepted the way that she expressed life. And it was so beautiful to see them interact, because no matter how hard I tried, it was impossible for me to not see the person that I wished that the able-bodied, not sick individual that I hoped that she could be someday. It was hard. It was nearly impossible for me. But for Jackson, he didn't even have to try. It was so beautiful.
I want to ask you, Kelly, about the inchstones after Adelaide's death. I am Jewish, so when I think of the grieving and mourning period after a loved one's death, we usually break that up into 7 days for the Shiva, 1 month, and then a year. So I'm curious if you could share a bit about some of your small sweet steps.
Yeah, some of those inch stones within the first week would be getting out of bed. They could be eating something without having, someone needing to remind you to eat. It is brushing your teeth. It is functioning like putting one foot in front of the other and functioning to stay alive, I would say, in the first week. And honestly, in the first month, I'm not sure that so much changed for me. There's a lot of adrenaline pushing to get through the service and everyone visiting, and then there's a bit of a crash when everyone disappears. The Jewish faith is so much better at grief than many other cultures are. I think for the month afterwards, it was, I had a friend, my friend Jenny, who would pick me up and take me to a workout class every day. And so for me, that was a huge step. I got out of the house once a day. I may not do anything else for the rest of the day, but I got out of the house and I went to that workout class. And that was huge. I moved my body and I left my home. A year later, those inch stones can look more like being able to socialize for a longer period of time, being able to be around other people and feel comfortable being around other people and not worrying about what they're thinking about me, or not having I call it my grief werewolf, where the werewolf just like erupts from within me and I have no control over it, and I just explode in grief. And it gets on everybody who's around me. Being able to have a social outing where that doesn't happen, or being able to meet a new person, which is so terrifying after you've lost someone, because there's just this fear of either A, your loved one coming up, or B, your loved one coming up, and the fear is actually more how the other person responds to it than us actually talking about our loved one. And so I think the inch stones change throughout, but even it's been now this fall will be 7 years since Adelaide passed, and that I still try and think about moving through my life in inch stones. And grief shades everything. Grief is going to shade all of my life from here on out, forever and ever. But just in my day-to-day, it still is about just trying to do a little better, to be a little bit better, be a better person, maybe be a little healthier, maybe write a little more, whatever it is, just do that a little bit more or a little bit better than I did the day before or the week before or the month before. And I find that it's better for me to look at life in those inch stones than to ever set another milestone or another 5-year goal, because I have no idea what asteroid is going to shatter in front of my feet and destroy all of my plans and dreams and goals, and I'll be epically disappointed. So instead, just trying to do a little bit better each day has been a much healthier way for me to think about growth and moving forward.
Thank you for that guidance, Kelly. I want to bring in your partner in crime here. Could you shift the camera a little bit over?
I sure can.
Hello, Miguel.
Hey, everybody. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm so glad to be with all of you. If you in the audience are a Hamill fan, a devotee of the musical Hamilton, you may know that our special guest played the title role in both the Broadway and the Chicago productions. And we're just really honored to have you here, Miguel. You returned to work 2 weeks after Adelaide's death. Most employers in the US would offer 3 to 4 days of paid bereavement. So that's quite generous. But, and often, after a death, people are eager to go back to work. I just want you to share a bit about your experience with us.
I the night she died, we were at home and I had a show that night, and I thought, well, maybe I can go to the show tonight, and everything will. And I'm going to say this in the wrong way, but everything will be okay because it's not going to happen right now. My own little sort of protest against sort of accepting that this is where we were. And I didn't go to the show, and thankfully I did not, because we lost her that night, and sort of I think it was a safe haven, right? It was this place that I could go and put on these clothes and put on my microphone and
You didn't have to be Miguel.
No, I hid behind this guy, and spoiler alert, sorry, anybody not seen Hamilton, his son dies in the show. Sorry if I ruined it. But if you haven't seen it by now, where have you been? And people would say, well, how do you, and I dealt with that sort of aspect of my life as a father throughout. It was at that point it had been almost 4 years that I'd been doing the show, so the edges of a father losing his child and were dulled after a while, and the acting business started. But now it takes on a little bit different meaning, this sort of this sentiment that happens in the middle of the show. And I was really shocked that it wasn't that moment. And I took 2 weeks to sort of make sure that everyone was okay and that it was time to go back, and walking in there and sort of yearning for, like what you were saying, yearning to be put on those shoes again and say, okay, what does this feel like now? What am I going to, sharing not only the story of Hamilton, but all of these people knew her, they knew my wife, they knew our story, the people in the audience knew us. We were very public about our story, and so walking out on the stage and feeling the sort of community that was surrounding us, both in our loss and in our journey up to that point, was really sort of shocking to me. How Miguel all of a sudden was on that stage. Hamilton went away for a little while, and it was me on the stage, trying to navigate doing the show and making sure that I said all the words correctly, and the new emotions that came. And it was the part of the show that you might expect was going to be the hardest was not. And in fact, it was singing a different song on stage when I started talking about, hope for my Dear Theodosia, which is this song of hope for your kids and the future. And sort of that one caught me off guard, because we were in a new place in our life, and that those kinds of sentiments could put on a shelf for a little while. And then, the show must go on, and it did go on, and I found new places that moved me personally that didn't move me as much before, or that had stopped moving me as much after 2 years, and really embracing the support that we were getting from our ham fam, these people who said, hey, Miguel, we're here with you, and we are doing this with you, grieving with you, and sharing and holding your family up with you. So it holds a very sort of special place, not just as the show, not as being Hamilton, but also joining this sort of family that I gained through this loss and through this whole Adelaide's life.
Kelly alluded earlier to butting heads with each other, during these really hard times. And I'm just curious to hear from you, what is helpful for you, Miguel, when you're being pulled in so many different directions, you're known for playing the role of Hamilton, but you also play the role of husband. You play the role of dad to Jackson and Anessa and Adelaide. What has helped ground you? What has helped you to be present, and what has helped you to manage your grief?
I think it was hard to sort of see it in real time, that I did not know how to do this. You know what I mean? In the moment of watching her deal with all of the things and the medicines and the therapies and the grieving, like my daughter is so sick and I can't do anything about it, and what am I supposed to do, and how do I help her, and do all, sort of grappling with the I should be able to do more. Trying to sort of understand that we only do the best that we can, and to not expect more out of the person that we're sharing the space with, or yourself, to say that I should be doing it differently. I try to improve, try to be better, but that, we are all in real time navigating a sort of unbelievable circumstance, and then we lose her, and she's going through her grief process, and I am feeling what I'm feeling, watching her, be a werewolf sometimes, and also, finding my time to feel these emotions. And am I supposed to feel like her? Is she? Are we supposed to be doing this differently? In retrospect, thinking back on it, and we finally got there when we finally said, "Hey, we should talk about this," understanding that though we are both Adelaide's parents, we are indeed two different humans, and the ability to do this differently in our own way. I wish I could have read my wife's book before we lost our daughter, so that we could really understand how this is supposed to go, because I think that helped a lot, understanding that simple fact, and then making sure you talk to each other and express how you feel in whatever way you can.
I have to say that the way Kelly wrote about your relationship, it's a wonderful model, I think, for other couples to read about. How you're so open with one another, and how, you two felt comfortable sharing a lot of the not nice stuff that could happen between couples in a situation like this. So again, bravo, Kelly. I want to give everyone an opportunity for you to sing. You've chosen a song for us. Maybe you could set it up for us a little bit.
Sure. I in 2017, just as we got to Chicago, we were doing a Cure Epilepsy gala, and I was asked to perform with some Hamilton colleagues, and someone said, have you ever thought about writing a song? And I said, no, not really, but I have this idea. We're in the beginning stages of my daughter's illness, and we're sort of feeling helpless and hopeless, and I wrote down these words about, if anyone knows anything about epilepsy and seizures, it's pretty violent and terrifying, and all you're looking for is just some peace, a little bit of calm, and to make the suffering stop. And that's what I was yearning for as a dad, as her parents, and that was kind of where this came from. And I haven't written many songs. I've written one song, in fact, and it was this one, and it's called Till the Calm Comes. And I hope you can hear it. Okay, here we go. I have only one heart, and that is the part that makes either tears from a smile or ripped up by pain. And oh, the sting, it feels the same, like the trails left on my face. and there's no way to know which way the wind blows today. I am only as strong as I seem, but that's enough for me to stay on my feet and say, I'll be here. My sword and my cape, I'll fight off these fears. And before it's too late, I'll make them disappear. And if the sky is too dark, we'll light up a spark and blow away the haze, so you can clearly see my face. And know right here is where I will remain till the calm comes. Oh, I am calling your name and trying to follow your gaze. Find a hint of a smile to know you're okay. It's so hard to hide my hate, but I'm trying, baby, wait. I am only as strong as I seem, but that's enough for me to stay on my feet and say, I'll be here. My sword and my cape, I'll fight off these fears. And before it's too late, I'll make them disappear. I'll take your hand so you know I'm not letting go. I need you to know that you're stronger than me. My head's underneath all these stormy seas. My thoughts turn to you and I'll stand and breathe. I hope that you can see, right here is where I'll be. Thank you. That's clearly the calm that we were looking for didn't come, but I think as we're all searching for peace and calmness in our lives, I think we'll take it wherever we can get it. And places like this are a beautiful place to get it. So thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you, Kelly and Miguel.
Thank you both. Thank you.
Andy, thank you so much. Thank you, Kelly and Miguel. Honestly, that was so beautiful. Just have to share 1 second. I mean, you see this picture I have of this guitar playing singer. You know, I lost someone dear to me when I was 21. Her name was Sarah. And I got into this work because I was playing music by her bedside for about 2.5 years as she battled pediatric cancer and eventually died. And playing music for her and writing songs for her really got me thinking a lot about, I mean, it was so helpful for Sarah, and it was also, but it became so helpful for me. And I didn't know what to do if it wasn't for this outlet, this idea of like channeling my pain into some form. And what you just did was so beautiful. And I think Kelly, your book and your writing as well, it's like processing and sharing these experiences in this form. I'm just curious before we move on to the honor ceremony, which I'm so excited to hold this space here this evening for that. But I'm curious, this idea of channeling pain. I mean, the thesis that we started investigating at Reimagine was, you know, what does it mean to channel your pain? I mean, I couldn't find that in therapy. I couldn't try to read about what that idea was, that there's, whether it's through an act of service or through singing a song or through giving somebody a hug or there's some small things that we can do where something feels different when you take some kind of action, that it just feels like something. I just felt that just now as you were playing. I'm curious, you know, what is this? Is this word like channeling or transmuting or transforming or, I don't know, metabolizing? is there any response you can share about the work that you're both involved in that kind of connects to that concept?
Yeah, I think of it as, we don't move on from our grief, we carry it forward with us. And so for me, that pain, that grief, it's really just I'm carrying any way for me to channel that pain is really ways that I'm finding to bring Adelaide forward into my life with me. So that is through writing, that is through getting up on a stage and being able to share her with people, and in doing so hopefully help other people with their be able to find better words to express themselves. That is through working for nonprofits where I get to create a legacy for Adelaide, where hopefully there is a day in the future where a family with a diagnosis similar to Adelaide's gets answers because research has been funded. And so for me, channeling that pain is about creating space for Adelaide to exist with me in the present, even though her physical body can't be here. Her physical body prevented her from verbally talking or from physically being able to move through the world. And we still watched her move, and we still knew we could still communicate with her. So there's no reason in my mind that even though her body isn't physically here, that I can't carry her with me forward. And any way that I can channel that and bring that forward, that is a way that I can channel that pain and that grief.
Mm.
Any opportunity I get to talk about my daughter, my wife, our story, our life, this journey that shaped us and shaped how we see the world, how we interact with other people, how people see us. It all has shaped everything about who we are. And so anytime someone says, can you talk about this? And thank you so much for sharing. And I say, no. Thank you for letting me share. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being there and receiving this energy, because it is how we honor and remember and how we love her on into the future,
That is really beautiful. And I think, honestly, that's so in our hearts of what I think we're trying to do together here. Even what we're about to do in 1 second is witness each other's expression and how that the mutual healing and love that can be created when we take the time to witness each other's voices around this, because our voices, as you've both showed, are just so, the human spirit shines through both of you, and it's like, it's indicative of, I know, everyone in here, but just so beautiful that spirit. So thank you for gracing us with Adelaide's spirit and what she's giving to all of us through your presence. We can definitely feel her here, and you really are honoring all that's come before you and showing up this way. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
With that, I'm very grateful to introduce Wally Klatch, who will lead us in the honor ceremony. Now, Wally was diagnosed with early stage dementia in October 2022. For these last 3 years, Wally has been living in a world that has different people, different activities, different language, different ways of connecting, and a different view of the world than he had before his diagnosis. As a Reimagine collaborator, he has hosted talks and conversations on aging, life cycle, events, and transitions. And tonight, Wally, we're so grateful to have you here to usher us into this very sacred moment of this time together, the honor ceremony. Thank you, Wally.
As Kelly and Miguel just said, I feel the exact same way. Thank you to Reimagine and to the participants here for the opportunity to, in a sense, it's what keeps me alive in a certain way, to have a mission and to be able to do something. And also to say to Kelly and Miguel how incredibly moving it was what you had to say and how you say it. So thank you for that. The world I live in since my dementia diagnosis is surrealistic in a lot of ways, and I haven't even tried to find my way or to guide it or to guide my own activities. I've just flowed along to wherever this world has taken me. And this reality that I'm in right now doesn't connect in any way to my prior personality or profession, which was as a management consultant in organization and operations for large businesses. So at first, after my diagnosis, the flow I was in was only black. From the shock of the situation and from the loss of what I had known and from the grief of me seeing myself becoming a slobbering, unable to communicate person with no control over myself physically, and the other pieces of a dementia picture. And the world I was in following my diagnosis was just dark and scary. One example of how crazy my reality was, that it was death itself that brought me out of this dark picture and into the new form of life that I would begin living when I was able to make a transition. The darkness I was in led me to see my death and my tombstone right in front of me. And creating my tombstone became a big part of my focus. And it took several weeks to come up with what I wanted written on my tombstone. And even that was bizarre of itself, because I had decided to be cremated and I don't even need a tombstone. So nothing made any sense in the whole world I was living in. And when I finished, after several weeks, coming up with the 20 words from my tombstone, and I realized that was after quite a bit of thought, I realized those 20 words are who I see myself as being. So they could actually be my guide for how I should live whatever amount of time I have left to live. So what I decided to write on my tombstone that came out of my grief led to my lifestone about how to live whatever life I have left. So I'll tell you what it was that I wrote as my epitaph that became my lifestone. What I defined for myself: to feel situations I'm in and to bring my energies to make the situations richer for the people they touch. As this dying, living connection, my dying led to how I'm living now. And as that sank in for me, I started seeing that this same idea of the darkness I was in, which was that I was living with the dementia diagnosis, but before the dementia destroyed me, could also lead to a light that I wouldn't have had otherwise about how to live my life. And this light was even brighter because I knew that the day would come in which this light would go out, when this horrible destroyer dementia would put out every light I have and literally kill me. So I'm telling about this completely off-track process of creating my tombstone because it is one of the most meaningful things that happened to me as I've dealt with my dementia. Because of this tombstone process, I've taken this crazy reality in as part of my life instead of fighting it. That looking at my life as blacks and whites had put my view of myself and my world in a frozen place of either or, and that letting go of that way of thinking, and instead looking at the reality of my life as a swirling mix of blacks and whites and grays, doing that can bring me to experiences and places in life that I can well live with. I have a phrase that I use for this, and that is, when living and dying dance a duet, what music will you play? It's not blacks and whites. It's living and dying dancing a duet, and my role is what music will I play for that. In the reality I'm in, I can actually enjoy the otherworldliness, the surrealism of this living, dying dance for whatever amount of time I have left as part of it before dementia completely destroys me. So we'll continue this honor ceremony with an invitation to all of you to please enter the names of loved ones, things you've lost, things you're grieving, or anything that you would like to enter into the chat.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for witnessing and for sharing what's in the chat. I want to let you know that just because that beautiful music from Miguel is now only ringing in our hearts and ears and no longer playing out loud, it doesn't mean we have to stop entering names or expressions in the chat. That the space is available, and even if you haven't shared something in the chat but it's in your heart, I think this is a space where we can all recognize that we're all holding something, and we're all witnessing one another in that space. So thank you so much for the vulnerability and for the care that just took place. And Wally, thank you for that just incredible wisdom that you shared with us. I think it's so wise, and the kind of the liminality between these different spaces and the dance that you talked about, this thread of music and the interweaving of that, and in a world where we see so many things, if everywhere is kind of what you're saying, black and white, it's look at what's possible when we try to hold space for really all the other parts of what's happening, and you really have modeled that so beautifully for us, and we wish you a continued dance with us all on your own, and we're all part of the dance with you. So thank you for being with us and for all that you're doing in the world right now. It's amazing. We've heard about inch stones and lifestones, and it's really the whole spectrum of what it means to show up for life, and for one another. So thank you. Maybe we're about to move into the candle extinguishing blessing, but maybe we should just take one collective deep breath, because there's a lot happening right now in the chat, in everyone's hearts. On the count of three, let's just take one deep breath if you're able to tonight together. 3, 2, 1. Breathe in and out. Yeah, we'll just slow down for a second together. This was really, really beautiful place, and it's so great to that you've all allowed us to co-create this together with you. Let's see. Also, I feel like as we're wrapping up in a second here, it'd be wonderful if you wanted to share some gratitude in the chat for our speakers this evening. That's how we can share that forward. I see you're already expressing it, but it's just so nice to have that. Let me see if I can find the slide I'm looking for very quickly. Here we go. Need 1 second here so we can bring up the candle extinguishing blessing. If you have your candles handy, we're going to now turn toward this blessing together. Here we go. All right, fabulous. I'd love to invite back our featured speakers this evening to lead us in this candle extinguishing blessing. They're going to read it each one time. And then at the end, we can collectively take another breath together. And then on a count of 3, we can extinguish our candles as a community. Now, if you don't have a candle, feel free just to breathe with us, and it'll have the same effect. So, or if you want to keep your candle lit, some people choose to, they want their candle to extinguish on its own accord. That is totally okay. So I'll turn it back over to our wonderful Wally.
By extinguishing our candles, we release light into our world to keep alive hope and the memories of those we honor today and tomorrow and for the rest of our lives.
By extinguishing our candles, we release light into the world to keep alive hope and the memories of those we honor today and tomorrow and for the rest of our lives.
By extinguishing our candles, we release light into our world to keep alive hope and the memories of those we honor today and tomorrow and for the rest of our lives.
That concludes the formal ceremony this evening. We have a few more announcements that we'd like to share, and can then conclude with a final group ritual as well. So, Andy, can I bring you back to share a little bit about some of the upcoming things that we have in the works for folks?
You may. There is a lot going on, but I'll share a few highlights. On March 25th, join us for the series Never Can Say Goodbye, hosted by death doula and writer Darnell Lamont Walker. I think you'll find he is as warm as Kelly and Miguel and Wally. This month's discussion focuses on medical aid in dying. This is significant for New York this year. It's the 12th state in the U.S. where medical aid in dying MAID is now legal. Guests include comedian Kelly Dunham and designer Elaine Fong, both of whom cared for family members who opted for this end-of-life option. Also this month we have our monthly Room for Grief. This peer-led drop-in group meets every third Thursday of the month, and Reimagine collaborator Nina Rodriguez will facilitate. I want to spotlight a few collaborator events that are coming up. Most of what you see on our calendar is generated and hosted by our team of collaborators, and that includes the amazing Wally Klatch, also a past Vigil speaker and Reimagine collaborator Jane Rigler. Check those out. Tomorrow is Wally's program, so please register for that. And our Vigil, which is coming up again in April, we'll be featuring another musical theater duo, the Lazures, Daniel and Patrick Lazure. who with Taby Magar have created a new musical, which is currently playing at Lincoln Center Theater in New York. It's informed by conversations with nurses, doctors, patients, and caregivers. So join us. Nicole will paste a link in the chat for these events. You can also collaborate with Reimagine, host your own events, contribute blog posts, and your resources. I'm going to give it back to you, Brad.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, I mean, we've hosted Andy's really responsible for a lot of this in supporting this community of collaborators, but 4,000 online events that we've hosted for spaces like this that are free and accessible to people, because we believe that community healing that's accessible and engaging should be really a right. And for that to be true, we want to support you in creating experiences for your communities. So if you have questions about how to do that for your community, and it makes us feel most fulfilled when we can help you create an experience that wouldn't otherwise exist in the world, to hold space for others. So that's what this organization, a big piece of that is centered. And then there's experiences like tonight that Andy personally whips up with some fantastic guests. So thank you so much, Andy, and everybody for participating and making this a thriving community of folks willing to have these conversations and spread these ideas in a broader way. I also want to let everyone know, talking about small sweet steps and inch stones and lifestones, I mean, really, and channeling, we've been working for the last 3 years on a kind of a reinvention of how social media and the performative nature of social media is kind of an antidote to that, where we can actually work and to witness each other's stories and to work to channel our experiences in healthy ways. And we're getting to the point where we can have you try that out and give us feedback and participate in sharing your own stories and supporting others and witnessing their stories. It's really all about holding space, but you can explore, share your unfolding journey, get and give support, and connect with others. If you want to carry on this journey, this is a place that's through journaling, through living, through action in the world, that we come back together and we share what we're up to, and we hold space for one another to support them in those small, sweet steps. Just as really as Kelly was describing in such a beautiful way. What you'll find inside is a space for reflection, creativity, and connection. There's exercises and ways of processing and tapping into whatever creativity you can find in the ways that work for you. Your own music through the hard parts of life, whatever that music is for you. It doesn't have to be music. It doesn't have to be writing. It could be taking a walk. It could be as Kelly, you so aptly shared, it could be just getting out of bed. And we want to celebrate those steps and create a community in the world where those steps are witnessed and celebrated. And so join us in helping make that possible. And for you, we have special access, and there's a pathway we've created that is kind of a guided experience. I can't wait to share more about this with our. Honestly, this call has been so inspiring to me. I'm just so grateful to be in the presence of everyone here, and I can't wait for everyone on this call to check this out and be part of this with us. Dara. Is Dara still here, or is this
Dara had to leave. Sorry.
Do you want me to share about this, or are you going to share?
No, I would love for you to share.
Oh, great. So what happens in these groups on that platform I was sharing? There's a platform, but we also hold people over a journey of 4 weeks or 10 weeks where they actually get through that process of supporting one another and defining what are those small, sweet steps that they want to take in life. What might they ladder up toward? A lot of times we're doing what you're saying is we have to reduce the size of the dreams and just make them things that people can do, and start having the experience of channeling their pain in small ways where we can start seeing the beautiful things that can emerge from some of the hardest places. And so over a period of time, those turn into stories, which we call Reimagine projects, which can be bite-sized or can be larger. But we're helping facilitate beautiful creations in the world, actions in the world, small steps in the world born out of some of these places. And we have these stories coming up, an event where some of the people who have gone through this program are going to be sharing their stories with the community. This is the first of its kind event where we want to witness people who are on this journey of really what everyone in our everyone here is doing, and normalizing that as a sharing experience. So, is there a date on this, Andy? Or I don't. Tomorrow. Holy cow. If there's a link, I don't know what Nicole, if maybe paste a link if you want to join us tomorrow, or if you want to create your own story, join us for this group. I think the way to find that, by the way, Nicole is going to paste a link in the chat for a survey also. If there's a survey about this evening, at the end of the survey, you can express interest in some of these things, and we'll reach out to you. The survey is so meaningful because we want to create the best experiences we can for everybody, and your feedback on this really helps us figure out where to move from here and how to be responsive to what's happening in the world. We are going to be hosting a big collective grief experience later in this year to process collective pain. As we've been hearing from our community, some of what's happening in the chat, and wanting to be responsive and have us guide toward the collective grief that we're feeling as well. I want to conclude, first of all, Kelly, Miguel, and Wally. I wrote a little poem for you as I was listening to you all, and I want to read that. I call these 15s. I'm not a poet, but this form of poetry, which a friend shared with me once, 5 lines, 3 syllables each, it always works. And so just wanted to leave you with this poem. Laughter, please. Fond moments we recall, a child's laugh. Bring love here. You brought love. So thank you to Kelly, to Miguel, and to Wally for bringing love into the space tonight through your stories and reflections, and reminding us of what really does matter when we look back on life, those moments of laughter and love. So, and then a poem to all of the Reimagine staff, Dara, who is here, Nicole, who's here from the Canary Islands tonight. Thank you so much for staying up. Andy, Dara, also, I didn't recognize, she made this incredible altar that I think we've been witnessing. Is that right, Nicole? Yeah. So thank you so much, Dara, for making that altar. And really to all of you for showing up and making us have people to do this with and for. Thank you. Every month we do this, every month. Sad but glad, to mourn, grieve, grow, and love together. All right, so we have 1 minute to go. We're a nonprofit organization. So anything you can do to support us, to get other people involved, if you want to contribute financially to support this, to make these events free like this, to be able to invite wonderful guests who often either do this basically out of the goodness of their hearts in so many ways. This makes the whole thing work. Thousands of events, a message that we feel would make the world a better place. It starts with all of us. So any way you can get involved, we appreciate you, and you can express that interest in the survey. I want to bring back Kelly and Miguel. Maybe just one. I know you've experienced a lot, Kelly. I mean, I heard you speak earlier this year, last year, and I just had a child, and to hear about your journey unfold through your own illness, and then now to hear more about the backstory of everything that you've experienced. Maybe we can just wrap up with this question in one sentence. What has loss taught you about life?
I'm gonna very quickly read one line from my book that I think encapsulates this. I wonder, are we lucky if we escape life with soft skin and minimal layers? Or are we lucky to have the battle scars that show a life of survival and meaning? And I fully believe that we are lucky to have the battle scars that show a life of love and meaning, because that is what gives us the perspective to be so grateful for these beautiful lives that we have and that we get to lead.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Miguel, any final reflection on your end?
I think hope is a superpower. And so we should always hold on to some hope, no matter what's going on around us. for the next day, hope for the next day, and something a little bit better.
Amen. And Wally, we'll leave it with you. Any last reflection on your end?
In the living dying duet, dying makes living more immediate, and living makes dying more meaningful.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. The way we're going to conclude this night, other than Miguel's voice, nothing seems to sound good on Zoom. There's nothing that sounds good on Zoom except for Miguel. Even with that microphone, it's like, oh yeah, that's a singer right there. However, there is one exception to that rule, and that is the word. Surprisingly, when we say the word love in a collective cacophony on Zoom, it somehow just pierces the technical glitches that make voices sound awful, and it sounds surprisingly sweet. So why don't we end this event by unmuting ourselves, and on the count of 3, we can sing the word love. Miguel could lead us and just like loving it up with the word love, and we can sing it 100 times in a row, one long time. Let's just get everyone's voice in the space, because you've all been participating in your own ways, but it's so nice to, if you're willing to bring your voice into the space, to have that voice ring the word of love as we head off into our own, really into the rest of our lives. So on the count of 3, thanks again for being here and part of the Reimagine family. 3, 2, 1. Love, 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 love.
We love
Love.
love.